Herps all around. Is everybody ready? I don't think they are. Just setting up a couple more things. Bear with me. Maybe pack a bowl. That would be good. Pack a bowl for me too. Welcome to the 420 News Livestream. I am Oscar, the editor, owner, designer, the asshole behind the ass box, and I am here to bring you this week's latest cannabis news. If you'd like to follow along, head over to weedporndaily.tumblr.com/tagged/cannabis news, and if that was too long for you, you can just go to weedporndaily.com and click the news button on top. It's pretty easy. This week, we have about 8 articles to discuss here. Nothing groundbreaking, nothing big, but don't go home yet because we still got some stuff to talk about. The first article that we're going to be discussing here is from The Cannabist, basically the Associated Press. Florida attorney will sue state over legislation that bans patients from smoking medical cannabis. Now, the Florida attorney that we're talking about here is John Morgan. And John Morgan was actually the person who was campaigning for the Florida legislature's bill that passed last year or so for medical marijuana. He was the big proponent behind, I forget what the exact name, it was like PUFM, People United for Medical Marijuana Use. So he was actually one of the primary sponsors of that organization, as well as one of the proponents who was actually using his political placement as well as his he does car commercials in Orlando. So literally this guy, he's on the media and he used his face and his presence and his trust with the community to teach them about cannabis and let them know that it's a safe substance to use. So it's really nice to see that after Governor Rick Scott has recently signed a bill that has banned smoking of medical marijuana, that John Morgan has come out and essentially said that he will now sue the state of Florida so he can protect patients' rights and their ability to smoke. He's enlisted the help of a constitutional law expert, John Mills, so the John brothers are out to get you. But very cool, nearly 90% of people who use cannabis smoke it, yet it was still banned in Florida. It's really crazy to see the state of cannabis in Florida and how they're really flummoxed with it, and they're really they're dropping the ball over there. It's really sad. I'm glad I got out. This next article comes to us via Normal. Make sure to head over there and support them because I basically posted the entire article. You can go check that out. This comes to us. This is like a federal thing, so this is like every state. The Deputy Attorney General. Marijuana is federally illegal and has no medical use. I'll take a long sip of my tea. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rodenstein was questioned about federal marijuana policy during a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing today, and his responses were disconcerting, to say the least. Quote, "And from a legal and scientific perspective, marijuana is an unlawful drug. It's properly scheduled under Schedule 1, and therefore, we have this conflict." What was another one? This one was good. Quote, "The question of whether it's legal under federal law is resolved because Congress has passed a law. It's illegal. Scientists have found that there's no accepted medical use for it. No accepted medical use. Let's discount the countless studies that have come out that say that it helps with cancer, glaucoma, lack of appetite, and so many other different disorders and conditions that the humans deal with, and that it's chemically known to enhance the state of living of people, and chemically proven to do it in either mice or human studies. But hey, he's got some scientists, you guys. This guy, he's got some fucking scientists, and they are going to disprove all of the science that we have currently that says cannabis doesn't kill people and is an ethical drug and safer than coffee and alcohol and all these other substances. No, fuck that. Go smoke your cigarettes, go drink your alcohol. Safer than this. Keep cannabis on Schedule 1. That shit's right up there with heroin and LSD for some reason. It's really crazy to see these kind of messages being perpetuated and being purported by politicians here, and it's really scary to see people in power having these kind of like skewed thoughts where he's literally spouting like nonsense. He's not spouting facts anymore. Someone is coming out and saying the sky is green, and because of that we have to do this, and we have to turn around and say, whoa, the sky's not green. Here's some fucking science. Why don't you go back to school? Why don't you go study some things that actually involve your policy making here? Why don't you consult with some experts in the field rather than coming to conclusions yourself so brassily? So it's crazy to see, we have the Attorney General, we've got Jeff Sessions, we've got Trump, who hasn't really said a lot, but he's made his statements kind of clear with a lot of the motives and the memorandum that he's passed through. So it's really not seeing a lot of good stuff here from the Trump administration, and I'm really seeing that cannabis legalization, at least on the federal front, is going to be a bit of a fucking... We're going to be wrestling some muddy pigs. Let's just put it that way. Moving along, this comes to us from Big Biz Journals. Montgomery Co. Medical Marijuana Company raises nearly $6 million for interstate expansion. I thought this one was interesting. This is for all the people who are like venture capitalist, VC, angel investor, fucking business people. When you start talking about Series A and Series B funding, and you know what the fuck I'm talking about? I'm talking to you. So this was an interesting little thing because not only does it show the valuation of marijuana cultivation companies and the threshold, or like kind of like the limitation of value that we can see. So I can go and I can start my own medical marijuana cultivation company and say, hey, this company raised $30 million over here, so I'm worth at least $30 million because I have everything they have and maybe more. So it opens up the door for those kind of things. It's really nice to see that kind of news. But what was more interesting about this article was the fact that this company, Greenleaf Medical LLC, is one of the few companies that has received approval from Maryland regulators to cultivate marijuana. So we have them in Maryland, we have them in Pennsylvania, and then we also have them in Ohio, with three separate, you know, like company branches. So if you guys want to talk about the Marlboro of marijuana, you guys want to talk about the Budweiser of weed, it's companies like this, and it's companies that have their shit together on this scale, that are gearing themselves up to become that kind of operation, where you're going to cross state lines and you're going to start seeing the same brand perpetuate itself, and it still be legal despite interstate trade maybe not being legal, but because they can organize themselves properly and create the proper like company structure and whatnot and licensing, they're capable of creating this kind of infrastructure. So it's really interesting to see that they're able to do it across a tri-state level, and particularly in the kind of east corridor over here with Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Maryland. You know, if somebody were to do that with Colorado, Oregon, and Washington, I'd be almost doubly impressed. But it's still pretty impressive over here because it gets even more like medical marijuana policies get more strict the more East Coast you get. The more East Coast, the less like liberal the policies get. It's an interesting effect, kind of. You get over to Michigan and shit gets a little hairy. But this next article comes to us from the LA Times. This one is definitely one that I would head over to their website and consume in full, because you get a way greater detail about just the situation. Like, there's a lot to this. LA proposes new regulations on how and where marijuana shops can operate. Los Angeles has unveiled a new set of proposed regulations Thursday on how and where marijuana business can operate within, city limits. The draft rules would impose restrictions on where pot shops can sell marijuana, where they can operate, limiting them to basically commercial and industrial zones, barring them within 800 feet of each other and 800 feet of schools, public libraries, parks, drug and alcohol treatment facilities, and other kind of restrictions come into play with indoor cultivation facilities. It's just a lot of different zoning restrictions, the kind of stuff that you see in Washington, Colorado, a lot of the other places where their programs are a little more strict and put in place. So these kind of rules aren't necessarily new, it's nothing crazy, but it's interesting to see that we're not seeing necessarily any progression. You know, like, we have Colorado in like 5 years ago or whatever doing their medical marijuana program and releasing these kind of rules, and then we see issues with the medical marijuana program in the industry, where a lot of businesses are hamstrung to industrial districts and places where patients aren't necessarily, most accessible to. Like, right now, I gotta go drive to Santa Ana if I want to get to a truly legal dispensary, and Santa Ana is an industrial like city. Like, I go and I drive to the warehouse district, and I'm on fucking bumpy roads that haven't been paved because fucking 18-wheelers go through and they carve like chunks of the fucking pavement out, and there are train tracks and homeless people everywhere, and everything's like a fucking warehouse where they melt down steel and they have big fume stacks, and it's that kind of shit, like, there are no people living there. I don't turn the corner and see a supermarket or a taqueria or some shit. If anything, I see a taco cart that's servicing the small amount of businesses in the area. So it's really crazy to see the just limitation in this kind of like regulations that get set in place, where you're telling people you can't open up between 800 feet here, 800 feet there, 800 feet there, and people actually start to map stuff out, and they're like, well, shit, I can only have my business in this one tiny little corner here and here and here and here, and that's already hard enough to get a retail person to sign off and say, yeah, come and have your marijuana here. I know it's a federally illegal substance and the state has allowed it. Go ahead, do it. Grow your weed plants, or fucking smell up this place with weed smell, or bring your weed traffic over here. Like, it's really difficult to find a landlord who isn't going to have a particular predisposed prejudice to somebody with cannabis or in the industry. So it just creates these kind of like barriers and things of entry where it becomes difficult for people just to open up a business. So I'll be interested to see if any of these regulations get eased over time and get put in a place where they're a little more reasonable. This comes to us via the Cannabist. I thought this one was interesting, speaking of Florida developments. Florida legislature reaches agreement on medical marijuana regulations. The amendment, approved by 71% of voters in November, expands the legal use beyond the limited prescriptions for low-strength marijuana allowed under a 2014 law. If you guys weren't aware, basically Florida, it was illegal in Florida, and then they passed like a CBD law that sucked, and the CBD wasn't really accessible by anybody. And then they tried to like expand that CBD law with a medical marijuana law. And before all that happened, there was a medical marijuana thing that tried to go and pass and didn't. And so they had the CBD law thing kind of go through instead, and it's been fucked up. It's been fucked up. But now they're trying to kind of take the policies and expand them and formulate them in a particular place where they're a little more similar to the infrastructures we're seeing in other states. It expands the eligible ailments beyond the current list of cancer, epilepsy, and chronic muscle spasms to include HIV, AIDS, glaucoma, PTSD, ALS, Crohn's disease, Parkinson's disease, multiple sclerosis, and other similar conditions. I'm assuming chronic pain and something else is on there. Basically, if you go to the doctor and you're like, man, I'm fucked up and medication doesn't help me, I need weed, you'll probably get access to cannabis. Because basically, if you look at this list, this is the same list that California goes by, the same list that Oregon, Colorado, Arizona, Washington, they all kind of follow the same symptom list. And everybody gets weed. When the bill implementing the amendment fell apart late in session, the Senate wanted to limit each treatment center to 15 locations. The House wanted no caps and no sales tax. We can clearly see which one's a little more money driven. It's really interesting. And which one's a little more liberal and not. Under the agreement, there will be a limit of 25 dispensaries per medical marijuana treatment center, which can increase by 5 for every 100,000 patients added to the registry. The cap would expire on April 1st, 2020, and the legislation also adds 10 more medical marijuana treatment centers, meaning there would be 17 statewide by July 1st, 2018. So if you guys currently have been looking at the Florida news, you guys can check the Florida tag on our Tumblr. You can see that there have been a bunch of medical marijuana dispensaries that have actually been opening up across Florida. And we just recently reported on Orlando putting down their moratorium and excising the ban on medical marijuana dispensaries and saying, hey, we allow them now. Here are the limitations. They have to be 400, 800 feet from schools, yada, yada. But we're seeing dispensaries in Florida. It's really crazy. But we also have a limitation of the dispensaries because of a lottery that happened where I'm assuming it was 7, like basically 7 licenses were given out to 7 different companies across the entire like span of Florida. And they said, hey, you 7 companies, go supply the entire state of Florida. And then literally the companies had to go and kind of spread themselves out and create different branches. If you go to some of these companies' websites, it's crazy. They're like, yeah, we ship. You know, we're not even going to say, or we deliver. And we're not even going to say what range we deliver. But we're based in Jacksonville. And it's like they're delivering from Jacksonville all the way down to Orlando. I think if you go into our Florida tag, we actually have a reported delivery where one of the companies went like multiple cities over and delivered some cannabis. So we have dispensaries, we have delivery of cannabis, non-smokable cannabis, and we're going to see the availability of this increase over time. It's really nice. Moving along, I thought this one was interesting. I almost wish I had like the other picture, but if you guys Google it, you'll see. This comes to us via the Cannabist. Weed company Potcoin sponsors Dennis Rodman's visit to North Korea. This one, I don't even know what to say about this one. I woke up and I thought this was like a fake article in my Feedly or something, you know, like I just woke up and I was like, what like BuzzFeed trash am I reading? I didn't understand, but it's real, bro. It's real. Dennis Rodman, wearing sunglasses and a black t-shirt, advertising a marijuana cybercurrency Potcoin, passed through immigration at Beijing airport and flew to the North Korean capital. And if you guys go and you Google Dennis Rodman, like North Korea King or whatever the dude's name is, you'll see Dennis Rodman in a picture with this, I think, shirt on, fucking holding Kim dude, Kim King. So it's crazy. Like, this is all like a publicity stunt. This is all clearly just a celebrity using his particular status and people's attention to adorn himself with a brand and do an insane, like, publicity stunt in order to, direct the attention towards a particular brand, a la this cyber currency. Nothing new. This is nothing crazy. But what's more interesting is the fact that this cyber currency said, hey, put on our t-shirt. Maybe not they said it, but them and Rodman got together and said, hey, this sounds like a great fucking campaign. Let's get together. I'll put on your fucking t-shirt. We'll go to North Korea. I'll wear your t-shirt and I'll go talk to the leader of North Korea and money or something. Or I'll go talk to them maybe about having cyber currency in their like fucking communist country. I don't know. So it's really crazy to see, like, who had this idea? Who thought this was a good idea? Who wants to take their brand and say, yeah, man, put on a Nike shirt, go to a country where they enslave people and they fucking behead them, and people have literally been, like, jailed and, like put in prisons and encampments, and we've lost them and we never found them ever again. Let's go to that fucking place of, like, human violation destitute over there, and let's go, like, fucking party, bro. Let's just go. I'm gonna go party with the king. Like, it makes a huge statement on the company's behalf, on Dennis Rodman's behalf. It's a lot of shit in poor taste. I think the real succinct statement came from Dennis Rodman's quote. If we go over to the cannabis article, we can see it here. I mentioned earlier that people literally, they get abducted in North Korea and they disappear. Like, U.S. people from all different countries, they visit that country and then they disappear. Okay, that's a big fucking problem. If I go and I visit Japan, I go and I visit fucking Russia or fucking Switzerland, I go to Amsterdam, I'm gonna fucking come home, or I can go to my embassy and I'm cool, like, everything's fine. Like, I'm a human being. But these people, they put you in a cage and they treat you like a fucking animal. But what was crazy is he makes a statement. Where is it? Is it here? Chicka chow. There we go. In 2014, Rodman arranged a basketball game with other former NBA players and North Koreans and regaled leader Kim Jong-un with a rendition of Happy Birthday. On the same trip, he suggested an American missionary was at fault for his own imprisonment in North Korea, remarks for which he later apologized. So it's literally like some apologistic asshole going over there and saying, yeah, I know I'm a U.S. citizen, but that guy who was arrested over here probably for, like, unjust causes and put in prison for, like, for tripping or, like, for saying the wrong thing or suggesting that his honorary leader was not the world leader or, like, God or something. Like, I don't know what kind of strict particular policies they have in place in North Korea, but they warn U.S. citizens, do not travel to North Korea for your own safety. So he literally, people warn you and they say, don't go over there because you're gonna get fucking, like, put in jail and you're gonna get abused. And then somebody walks over there and they come back and they go, man, all that's hype. Yeah, man, that guy, he went over there and he started talking some trash and they did some shit to him. And you look at the guy and you're like, yeah, he talked some trash? What about the 20, 30, 50, hundreds of other people who are currently in prison unjustly and all that shit? How about all the other, like, violations and atrocities that this country has committed? It's really crazy for a guy to, like, start making apologies for North Korea. I'm like, I know you're trying to get in there and I know you're trying to, like, trying to be a representative, but it doesn't mean you have to, like, start spouting some non-truths. But moving along, because spent too long on that probably. via the cannabis again. Hawaii. Let me paint a picture for you guys. Um, you get on a plane, you travel over, you get off the plane, they put the fucking they lay you, you get laid, you know. You walk to your hotel, you go to what is it called? Aloha Noha, the fucking Disney hotel where they fucking appropriate Hawaiian culture. You show up there, you kick back, you have your little martini, you fucking sit on the beach, you relax, you go home. Meanwhile, people live on that island. People actually have to subsist an economy on this micro little like shit that essentially subsists itself off of 90% tourism, I'm sure, and like the rest off of like the little bit of money that they can exchange between each other. Um, so imagine, that kind of economic system where, you know, people struggle. It's hard to live in Hawaii. People go watch Token Daily's vlogs, and you'll see Token Daily is living on a fucking like banana plantation in the middle of nowhere. Like, I'm sure there's a city in Hawaii, Honolulu. There's downtown, whatever, but it's not like a lot of other U.S. cities and a lot of just other territories where they're so interconnected with different economies and different things that they're able to subsist in a different state. So Hawaii struggles. Hawaii struggles as it is, like they're exporting their macadamia nuts and they're praying that they come back with dollar bills to pay the rent. So medical marijuana in Hawaii, you can imagine, is even harder because I'm not necessarily going over as a tourist and benefiting and reaping from the medical marijuana system as much as the local people are. This is more of a local program. And you not only is that already an issue where you have a local economy that's like poor and can't really pay a lot of money, and then like you have this issue right here, which is really fascinating. Hawaiian medical marijuana dispensaries bleeding money as they still can't sell anything. So currently, dispensaries are legal in Hawaii. There are a bunch that have opened up, but the current issue right now is bureaucratical bullshit. And it is the number one problem that holds up a lot of different medical marijuana programs and states. And it's more fascinating because it's happening to Hawaii. And you can see here it's happening to this kind of microeconomy that's like excised itself over here. So you're seeing this effect on a much greater proportion than you would say on like an East Coast state that has these similar regulations. Hawaii, they have dispensaries, but they don't have testing labs like licensed yet. And in order for dispensaries to sell their cannabis, they have to have their cannabis tested by testing labs. So they create this kind of what is it called? Catch 2020 or whatever, where it's like I have weed, but I have to test it to sell it, but you don't allow me to test it, so I can't sell it. So I'm not allowed to sell weed, but I'm technically allowed to sell weed. And it's like this loop that like doesn't help itself because nobody like steps in and says, "Hey, we'll do a temporary thing where you can sell unregulated weed," or "Hey, like here's a temporary like monetary infusion to get some testing labs going, and they're going to be state run or something," or just some sort of solution to the problem. You see people just bumping their heads and essentially like bleeding out with money with these bureaucratical issues that they face. So dispensaries like Aloha Green on Oahu have no income, but they have a payroll because they have an entire staff, they have a roof over their head, rent, and they have operations expenses. So they're paying electricity, they're paying plumbing, they're paying for people to like fucking mow their lawn and fucking come and clean. Like, this is a business that runs itself, and they have $0 coming in because the Hawaiian government has essentially said, yeah, you're allowed to open, but we didn't get our shit together fast enough and allow for the licensing of other things that essentially are integral to you existing. It's really crazy. And it's also not only that, it's also the lack of a seed to sale software that hasn't been implemented statewide, which is crazy because as a software engineer, I've actually been able to observe multiple states implement their own seed to sale software systems, and essentially they go and they buy or they hire a software company like us and they say, handle it. You go code it, you go fucking handle it, we give you $100,000 and you come back and you give us a system that works forever. And usually that's what happens. And usually, honestly, a lot of these systems are already made, and people just come in and they say, we have the technology, and let's just work with what you have to like add your scanner or like work with your telephone system or like implement it into your infrastructure because we have the software and the technology already. So the fact that they haven't been able to implement this yet really makes me wonder just how organized the Hawaiian infrastructure is island to island. Like how organized are they and how easily are they able to come all together and say, yeah, I'm sitting in Honolulu and I'm able to look at the same camera from Oahu and I'm able to also look at this other camera from this other island. I wonder what kind of difficulties they face being that kind of literally landscape. So really interesting stuff. Really disappointing to see, and it's really a shame that this like Hawaii just hasn't been able to flourish with medical marijuana because it's a paradise, dude. I go sprinkle some seeds everywhere, and I'm growing some fucking. They turn into Maui Wowie. They just turn into it. It just happens. It's like why can't they get their shit together? It's a little disappointing. So the last article that we're going to be discussing here comes to us via the Denver Post. Social marijuana use in Denver. Residents and business owners divided on rules and regulations at public hearing. I thought this was really interesting. Basically, for the past few months, Denver and Colorado has been wrestling with the fact that they're trying to implement social marijuana use policies, and they're trying to essentially be one of the first medical marijuana states to say, we want to handle the public use of cannabis. If you guys aren't aware right now, if you go to California, you go to Colorado, any state, recreational or medical, you're not allowed to smoke weed in public. Anywhere. Doesn't matter. If I go to Nevada right now and I'm smoking some of their recreational weed and I'm in a casino and I step outside, that's technically illegal. And even inside the casino, it's technically not even allowed in the casino. So smoking always has to happen in a private residence where the owner allows for the use of cannabis. And it has to be a private residence, and a lot of the times it can't be like a business. You can't have a bar that has like a smoking section for weed. You can't have like a restaurant and have them have like a little like patio for weed. It doesn't work like that. You can't mix the two. So Colorado is trying to like handle that particular policy and see what kind of policies and regulations have to be put in place to have the efficacious use of social marijuana. Like what kind of rules do we have to have in place so we make sure that people aren't assholes when they're smoking their weed? Like what kind of bars and limitations do we have to draw? So I thought it was really interesting. They're already proposing like crazy stuff, like clean air systems, walled patios, security measures, and a bunch of other potential expenses that would multiply the kind of costs that a business would normally incur. So a business can't just say like, yeah, man, just go smoke on my back patio. It's fucking open air. Just go smoke. Like, no, suddenly there has to be walls to block it from the public view. There have to be clean air systems to circulate the air so that the air isn't sitting and possibly contaminating other people or like getting other people high. And there have to be security measures because all of a sudden we're smoking weed and we're fucking criminals. It's crazy. I can go to a bar and I'm sure that there aren't like regulations that say there have to be a fucking guy who sits outside with muscles, but that's just the standard. And suddenly with weed people, they're like, yeah, you need to have security cameras, you need to have a guy with a gun who sits at the front door and he's got like the fucking AK vest and makes everybody feel fucking uncomfortable and all this shit just because you want to puff on your little fucking grass joint. It's really interesting to see because the way that the social or the kind of like zeitgeist or like the social sphere was like spinning, it was kind of like moving in the sense that they were going to allow the social marijuana use and that they were going to just kind of enact fairly sensible policies. So to see them start to implement these kind of restrictions really is interesting to see what kind of like percentage liberal versus conservative we're seeing in those kind of decision-making meetings. But that's about it for the news this week. We went through those articles pretty fucking fast. I wanted to do it in like 30 minutes, and we did it. Um, is there anybody in the chat? I'm sorry if I've been ignoring you guys. Mr. Weeporn Daily, sour, please. Okay. Um, I'm not gonna smoke some sour, but I'll smoke some chem dog. Um, Thank you guys for joining me on this stream. I want to make these things a little more regular. You know, I like to bring you guys the latest cannabis news, and I like to convey to you what's currently happening. Because even as I go through the news, there's a significant portion of it that I observe, and I'm like, man, like, if I wasn't following this very specific tag or this very specific person, this news article probably would have passed me up, and this piece of information probably would have been lost to me. So being able to aggregate all these things for you guys and being able to condense them and kind of give you the gist of it, and also take all the information and aggregate it and say, yeah, I've been following the Florida news for like 10 weeks now or 2 years, and this is the timeline, and kind of catch you guys up so that you don't have to like fucking check the Florida tag and read 6 articles and be like, oh yeah, that's what's happening in Florida right now. I'll do it for you. But I'm about to smoke on some Absolute Extracts Chemdog. This is one of their vape pens. I believe this is a half gram. Goes for 35 bucks at the local dispensary. And really what's special is this vape, bro. This vape has 3 different temperature settings. It has a preheating setting, so that with the thicker oils you can kind of like preheat them and make sure that they don't get like that where you're hitting it and it's like, and you're sucking and you're not getting anything. It's nice. At the higher temperatures, it gets some really good clouds, especially for such a small battery. And haven't charged it once since I got it yet. I'm still waiting to see how many uses I get out of it. Make sure to follow us on Tumblr for all the latest news. I'm going to get the news up on our website again soon. We used to syndicate it on the site and then we stopped, and we're doing this whole little revamp with the website where we're going to like start to develop a couple new technologies that allow us to synchronize a couple of APIs and aggregate our content in a more efficient fashion than we currently are right now. So we're kind of like paused in some regards so that we can develop these new technologies and just have time. Ooh, good hit. But I'll see you guys next week, Wednesday, for the 420 News live stream. I will see you on Sunday for the Stoner Sunday live stream that we do. And as always, my friends, I hope you stay very stony and stay regular. I guess that doesn't work on the live stream. I'm too used to the daily grind. Stay regular.